Hi guys, Catmaster here, and today I want to talk a little bit about the Necromancer Volatile Dead Spellslinger build that I've been league starting with, and it's nothing short of my expectation. As a matter of fact, it exceeded all my expectations. And in this video, I'll quickly talk to you about why I thought it was going to be great, and why it is great, and what I've done with the build so far. So, Volatile Dead is a two-component spell that has a corpse explosion component and a spell damage component. When the corpse explodes initially, you create an orb, which is kind of a homing missile and just runs towards enemy and deals spell damage in a larger area. The corpse explosion part, like all corpse explosions, can't be reflected, but also doesn't scale with spell damage. In order to supply corpses for Volatile Dead, we use Desecrate. Desecrate Volatile Dead builds have been around, but they really only became really good once Poet's Pen and Spell Cascade were in the game. Poet's Pen is a unique wand that lets you trigger socketed spells whenever you use a wand attack, which has been replaced in this case, or made more or less obsolete with a new addition called Spellslinger support. But Spell Cascade is what I wanted to mention first, which makes spells appear not only once, but also once in front and behind the target area. It only works for AoE, but since both Desecrate and Volatile Dead are AoE, it amplifies, it triples the amount of things that it does. Right? So Spellslinger is a spell support, or a skill support that turns spells that are linked into reservations. So you can see that I have 3 Spellslingers running. My main setup is Volatile Dead with Inspiration, Hypothermia, and Spell Cascade, and the other one is Desecrate, Spell Cascade. And then I have another utility setup with Wave of Conviction and Bone Offering with Onslaught. Now I'll quickly go into a map to show you guys how this build looks like. And we're gonna just run the highest map that I have. Let's go with this Basilica. Right? We're gonna quickly just throw an Alk on it. That's 2 additional projectiles. I don't really want to do that, and I don't have Scours, so we'll take another one. Nice. That's okay. Poison on hit, less recovery. Not necessarily. Let's just throw a Chaos on. The 2 additional projectiles. Wow. No regen. I hate this game. All damage from hits always ignites. That should be okay. As long as you don't swallow a big hit. Right. So I'm a little bit careful because I made it into the top 60 yesterday. We ended at position 56 overall, number 18 Necro, after a 22-hour stream, and now I'm just waking up, getting back into the groove. So basically using Smoke Mine to get a move speed buff, and if we need, it also does blind enemies. As you can see, I'm just slinging barrage attacks, and the entire build works automatically, spawning corpses and Volatile Dead balls, which will then kill enemies. And it's fairly strong, fairly automatic, but there's some other features about this build that I'm gonna get into in a second that make it even better as a starter. So again, because the build's been a long time around, a long time, we already knew that it was going to be strong. People played it last league. As a matter of fact, Zizaran has a video on Volatile Dead Spellslinger as a starter for 3.10, and that was pretty amazing already. And yeah, now that when Harvest got announced, we knew how it's gonna work out. Pretty much everyone said that this is going to be one of the best builds to start with, and pretty much everyone expected it to be nerfed really hard, because it's just a little bit too good for how automatically it destroys content, right? I mean, historically in PoE, automation has been already a problem that's been nerfed many times. If you think about Winter Orb, if you think about Cast on Crit, all those builds were in a problematic spot at some point. But yeah, when the patch notes came around, no mention was made of Spellslinger, of Volatile Dead, or Desecrate. As a matter of fact, they even buffed some stuff by adding a cluster on the tree with which you can scale corpse life, if I recall correctly. There's a cluster Undertaker now that will allow you to scale corpse life, which is probably really, really good for this. I don't know whether I'm going to have to pick it because it's kind of out of the way. But just saying, in terms of power level, nothing changed through the patch notes, and that was when we decided that this is the build that we're going to be starting with. Now, you can transition into Spellslinger Volatile Dead as soon as you have access to the Spellslinger gem and to wand attacks, and as a witch, you'll have to do the library in Act 3. So most people recommend to skip the library and to level to Act 6 by conventional methods, meaning Orberstorm's Wave of Conviction setup or Orberstorm's Stormblast Mine, as most people are playing nowadays. And you can also go as a summoner, and I think you can also do like a Spellslinger Fireball setup. I even heard of Spellslinger Orberstorm's Ball Lightning setups for this. But yeah, so again, 3 Spellslinger setups, 1 with VD, 1 with Desecrate, 1 with Wave of Conviction, and Bone Offering. I picked Mistress of Sacrifice in Cruel Lab, I picked Plaguebringer in Normal Lab, and then in Merciless Lab, Corpse Pact as a massive boost. So in Normal Lab, Plaguebringer, which gives you more damage, makes nearby enemies deal reduced damage with nearby corpses, and gives myself 30% increased area of effect if I've consumed a corpse recently, which, by automating an offering, I do all the time. Mistress of Sacrifice makes my offering skills affect me with a reduced effect, and gives me skill effect duration. This is really good for Bone Offering, because Bone Offering allows me to reach block cap with glancing blows. Corpse Pact is insanely good because it gives 50% increased maximum life to the corpses that you spawn. And the corpse explosion part of Volatile Dead depends on the corpse's life, right? Explosion deals fire damage equal to 3% of the corpse's max life. So that's a really, really big boost to that corpse explosion component. And also enemies near corpses you spawned recently are chilled and shocked. Chilled and shocked means we can use hypothermia, which lets supported skills deal more cold damage with, or more damage in general with hits and ailments against chilled enemies. Since the enemies are guaranteed to be chilled next to my corpses and I spawn more corpses than I consume, they're always on corpses. It also helps obviously directly with the shock because shock increases damage taken by 15%. Pretty big. Now, glancing blows in combination with my shield and some block nodes and the offering, right? Without the offering, I'm at 5628, which is already the doubled value from glancing blows. Glancing blows is a passive keystone that has been added to the tree that originally was only available through Timeless Jewels. And now it's on the tree and you can just take it. So this doubles your chance to block, but as a downside, instead of avoiding all damage from the blocked hits, you take 50% of the damage from blocked hits. Now, if you're decent at math, obviously, you can tell that doubling your block chance, but then having the benefit that it gives you doesn't change anything, but it makes it more consistent. It's really much better to be block capped and to take 50% of damage from the blocked hits than to have half block cap but to avoid all damage, because then the damage that comes in is very spiky. So what I did with this tree is I went out here and I rushed Elemental Overload and the Dark Arts dual wield cluster. Early on I'm dual wielding with 2 wands, and then we're going to Spiritual Aid and Heart of Flame to boost more damage, and then later on I changed around the connections to the state that you currently see them in, and I picked up Arcane Guarding for a little bit of spell block and increased defenses and spell damage while holding a shield, and I picked up Sanctuary for a little bit of spell block as well. So whenever my offering goes off, As you can see, I'm at 75% chance to block attack and 75% chance to block spells. I do already have a Rumi's Concoction Flask in my stash that I found yesterday, luckily. Super lucky, by the way. And with the Rumi's Concoction... Where is it? Did I put it into the flask thing? Well, I got one somewhere here. With this and some other spell block passives that I could implement into the tree, I could get to block cap without glancing blows, which would be really strong, right? But glancing blows is just a really nice stepping stone to have a little bit of block cap, no, to reach block cap without investing too much into it. And why is this so good? You can roll recover percentage of life on block on Shaper shields. Now, I don't have a Shaper shield base yet, but that would be the next goal, to acquire a Shaper shield. And then we can actually get a percentage of our life back whenever we block, which is obviously better the higher the block is, regardless of whether you take damage from the blocked hits or not. What we're also looking to get is a trigger wand that will allow me to automate my Bone Offering and Wave of Conviction, take them off of the reservation, which would allow me to then run Herald of Ash or some other damage boosting reservation. Or I could also run a Flesh and Stone in Sandstance, which would make nearby enemies blinded and make me take less damage from attack hits from enemies which are not blinded. Also really, really good reservation. In order to squeeze in that many reservations, I picked up the reduced mana reserved here. I'm gonna link the tree down below. The jewels are just life and resists. But if you want to follow what I did here, this build, Volatile Dead Spellslinger, I recommend you follow Gucci Pradas or Zizaran's guide. Zizaran's is from 3.10, but he also has an updated video for the leveling process on his YouTube. And Gucci made a really good short video that explains the leveling process, when to transition, what you require, and how to play the build in general. Now, my twist on the build is that I use 2 Warcries. Warcries have been changed in 3.11 to not share a cooldown anymore. So I can use Enduring Cry and Infernal Cry both in this build. I'm linking them both with Second Wind so that when they go on cooldown, I have a second use, meaning the first use stack already recovers while I still have the second available. And Enduring Cry has been buffed in this way as follows. Every time you Enduring Cry, you're guaranteed to generate at least 1 endurance charge, regardless of nearby enemies. But then when enemies are nearby, based on the power of those enemies, you generate more endurance charges. And for every 5 power, that's 1 endurance charge. Now, the way that power works is normal monsters have 1 power, magic monsters have 2 power, rare monsters have 10 power, and unique monsters have 20 power. Players have 5 power, but they don't count to this total power because it's the power of enemies. But there's other Warcries that will take into account players nearby as well. So as you can see, even if I'm just alone with a unique boss, let's say I'm in Izaro's boss room, there's no ads spawned, I will still get 4 endurance charges when I Enduring Cry, which is more than my maximum. I can only have 3 at the moment. But also for a short duration of the buff, it will give me additional all resist and additional physical mitigation per endurance charge, which makes my endurance charge 50% stronger for a short amount of time after I Warcried. And also the 1 second regeneration effect, or the regeneration effect that Enduring Cry always had, or at least in its last iteration for the longest time that I can remember, has been massively buffed. So whenever I use Enduring Cry, I regenerate 1900 life over 1 second. Which, you know, is pretty solid chunk of my life and probably equivalent to using, yeah, the Surgeon's Hallowed Flask. Only that this flask takes 8 seconds to recover that amount. I need to replace this flask, not using it ever. And Enduring Cry recovers 1900 life over 1 second. Next is Infernal Cry. Infernal Cry is really neat because Infernal Cry covers enemies in ash, causing them to take increased fire damage, and this effect is based on the power of the nearby enemies, but it goes up to 20% as well. So as long as you have a decent amount of nearby enemies, or even if it's just a boss nearby, you will get a significant damage increase by covering enemies in ash with Infernal Cry. And on top of that, it does cause the enemies to explode on death. When they die, they explode, dealing fire damage equal to 8% of the monster's max life, which is incredibly good for clearing those bulky packs with resistance, blue packs, or even to take the rare in a pack with you when you kill everything around it. It's just that good, and I often get myself into rippy situations where volatile deadbolts are about to come in, but they're not going to kill everything, but then I use Infernal Cry, affecting the entire pack, and then when the first monster died, it just cascades out. It's like, poof, and everything explodes. On top of that, monsters don't leave corpses, and they don't have these on-death effects, right? So for porcupines, which fire spikes and all that stuff, it's great because with the explosion you don't have to tank the spikes. You can run into the pack of porcupines, use Infernal Cry, and kill them, and they're gone, right? So even though we don't benefit from the exerting attacks and the combust trigger and everything, this Warcry is still incredibly good in the build. Very, very good. Let me quickly go over my gear after we talked about these Warcries. I run a mediocre helmet with life and lightning and chaos resist craft. Nothing much to say here. My amulet is really bad, just gives me an amount of attributes, and I have a slot for a life craft, but no resists, nothing. This is likely going to be improved very, very soon. With garden crafting in the Grove, I was able to make this shield with 94 life. This is a hybrid tier 3 and a regular tier 4 roll life, so nothing super special, but I'm happy to have this shield because it just gives me a normal amount of life, above 100, and has the 12 auras implicit, but yeah, definitely going to be replaced soon. Managed to find this ring with 70 life, pretty okay. Again, resist crafts where possible. I try to fit in the elemental plus chaos resist. I'm really overcapped on most things. I can probably refund Alira soon if I get the regrets together and gain another 2 passive points. This ring has a little bit life, a little bit resist, and dex, which is very needed. Also flat fire to attacks, which goes onto the wand. But I don't think that affects the Spellslinger. Spellslinger only adds a portion of the wand damage. Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't matter for that. But yeah, just to show you that this is really mediocre League Starter SSF gear, and you can make this build happen really easily, especially if you're in a trade league. It's much easier. 100 life gloves here. Got a decent resist life belt. Nothing too good. Actually got really lucky with these boots because they have double tier 1 life prefix. So they have a tier 1 flat and a tier 1 hybrid. And yeah, that's why I'm running boots with less than 30% movement speed. I just was lucky enough to find this and then was like, okay, we put the high craft on it. Sadly only rolled 21, but 24 is the maximum, so it wouldn't make that much of a difference. And this chest piece, I picked up 6-socket and then I 5-linked it with the garden. Make sure that if you're interacting with your garden, you always have a 6-socket base nearby in case you get the 5-link or even the 6-link craft, because you know, otherwise you can't use it, and then you have to condense the life force and the mod goes away. That would be really sad. But yeah, just to show you guys, none of this gear is really good. Everything is garbage. Everything is going to be replaced as soon as we can. Maybe not the ring and the boots, but like everything else is subject to change. And you can see I got like 6.2k life. I'm block capped while my bone offering is up, and the build just runs smoothly. We already killed 6 Conquerors. We're in the second round of Conquerors. We're gonna kill Alhesman and Drox next. And I'm gonna cut the video off here though, because it's gonna be too long if I go and kill Drox. That fight's gonna take a little bit of time. Single target is not super amazing on the build, but it's really, really good and much better than I expected for such a good clear setup. And, you know, with a little bit of work, I'm pretty sure we can do all bosses in the game with this. And especially the fact that you can just run around and the balls don't need to be aimed, they automatically go to the enemy. That's all the difference. That's really good. So, anything else I wanted to mention? No, check out Gucci's and Zizaran's video. Thank you so much for watching this video. And if you want to come over and say hi on my stream at twitch.tv/CatmasterOP, feel free. We got a bunch of donation goals this time around in order to help me shave my beard and my head. I thought that was a little fun idea in order to monetize the stream a little bit harder, as I'm going to have to move out here, and that's going to be in like 6 months. Presumably. So the next 3 months we're going to go really hard on the stream and try to make this my viable career option. And if it doesn't happen, I'm not salty. I will just find a job. But I'm just saying I have an ultimate goal now, which is to make the stream viable or to get a job with which I can find a proper flat. Because quite honestly, this place is amazing and I'm not sure I will find anything quite as good if I don't have a good income source that I can prove. So thanks again for watching, thanks for considering supporting, thanks for the like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Have fun with your Harvest League start, and bye bye.